The Salt Lake Chamber is proud to present the American Express Women in Business Conference and the Wells Fargo Athena Award Luncheon coming up November 16th, where we will honor Dr. Cynthia Biotto as the Athena Award winner, a very prestigious award for the top women in business for her accomplishments throughout her career and her contribution to the community. At that event, the Chamber will also proudly honor 5 women who will receive the Pathfinder Award, and one of the Pathfinders at this year's awards is joining us today. Amanda Dickson is the morning co-host with KSL News Radio, the Grant and Amanda. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure.
This is a big award, the Pathfinder, a big deal, and certainly you're very deserving. Tell me what it was like when you found out that you were being honored.
I was blown away. I have never thought of myself as a businesswoman. You know, I think of myself as a broadcaster. You know that from your background. That
there's a job, and there are real jobs and then broadcast jobs, right?
I think that we're sort of guilty of feeling like we're in this. We honor other people.
Mm-hmm.
We spotlight other
Mm-hmm.
people. That's what you do in the media. Mm-hmm. That when the spotlight turns on you, it's a little awkward, a little uncomfortable, but I was humbled and proud. And the woman who nominated me is last year's Athena
Mm-hmm.
winner, my mentor, Marty. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
this woman has shaped my career and my life more than perhaps any other person.
You're speaking about Chris Redgrave.
Chris Redgrave, the former chair of the Salt Lake Chamber of Commerce, and an extraordinary woman, now a senior vice president at Zions Bank. And when I knew that it was her who honored me, I was even more humbled because of my deep respect for her.
You touched on a couple of themes there. One, I think that you mentioned her as a mentor.
Yes.
And part of this is that women have made such great strides in the business world that essentially I don't think people of younger generations really look at them as any different. It doesn't even register that, oh, perhaps my boss is a woman, my boss is a woman, 2 of my bosses are women,
right.
But it never really occurs to me. And tell me about those who have kind of blazed that trail, Chris being one who's kind of helped you along.
And it's, I think, a real indication of her and others like her success that you don't feel it. Isn't it beautiful that it's not relevant what the gender of your boss or your coworker is? I mean, there was a time when I was a lawyer years ago where people talked about, well, she's good for a female lawyer, instead of just a good lawyer.
Right.
That qualifier came before everything because it was more of a rare thing 20 years ago. And now, of course, it's not. Chris was one of, the first female general manager in KSL's 80-plus year history.
Yeah, and here at the Chamber, she was the. I remember she was the 2nd female board chair.
Yes.
In 108 years, but I like to point out she was also the 2nd in 8 years. So a lot has changed, depending on your perspective on the timeline.
And she really, I think, did help me to see that we have to support each other as women and encourage each other as women, which is something that men have known how to do for a long, long time because you've had more experience in business. But now that the post Second World War era of women coming into the workplace and being more comfortable in the workplace, that it isn't something we consider as much, and I think that's beautiful, that we just embrace. We're all family members, so we don't have to be as concerned about the mother or the father role. But speaking of fathers, Marty, congratulations, new babies. That your role as a father is as important in many ways as your wife's role, and we want to honor both of those roles in the family and in business, perhaps equally.
You also mentioned that something interesting, that you don't feel like a businesswoman, but you're an author.
Yes.
You co-host the #1 radio show on the #1 radio station in this market, a statewide market, and a little bit beyond. Those are some pretty impressive accomplishments. It's not like we just wanted to honor you because Chris said so.
Certainly, thank you. And you're right. And if I'm going to be good to what she taught me, I need to also be able to recognize my own accomplishments. You're right. I've been blessed at KSL to have great success with Grant. We've been together for 18 years, and that role has been, and in that role, we have helped other businesses grow. I think perhaps that is part of my role as a businesswoman, is that I have helped other businesses grow. When I take on a new client and experience the client and then do personal endorsements for that, whatever it is, whether it's granite countertops or cocoa, whatever it is, that I'm able to help a company grow gives me great satisfaction. And thank you for mentioning the books. I love being an author, and that sort of grew out of my being a speaker, which grew out of KSL. I would go around and speak. You have needs for speakers at almost
Sure.
every event that any
Absolutely.
company. And then companies started hiring me as a speaker to come and motivate their employees. And I thought, I don't know where this came from, but it seems to work.
Yeah.
After doing that for 10 or 15 years, I realized there's a book in me. There's a book probably in everybody.
Sure.
There's a book in me based on these speeches. Can I translate that motivation that really works in person to the printed page? I'm not sure, but I'd like to try. So I am sort of my own one-woman business.
That's right. Is there any aspect of that you find perhaps more rewarding? I mean, I'm not going to make you say that you don't like the radio show the most, since that's sort of the bread's buttered probably.
Yeah, right,
but is there an aspect, and it probably has fluctuated a little bit, but is there one of that right now that's the most rewarding for you?
Yes. I do a lot of speaking with one particular organization called Time Out for Women. Time Out for Women is a subdivision of Deseret Book. And it is a women's conference that's put on in cities all over the country. So this last year I went to Phoenix and Memphis and oh my gosh, I was most recently in Atlanta a couple weeks ago. And it is targeted toward LDS women, but many women of many faiths and of no faith attend these conferences. And it is what it says it is. It is a time out where you can leave your kids at home and just not worry about anything but being together and sharing some inspiration and hopefully some laughter. I am the comic relief of these conferences. Clearly I am not there as the spiritual person, but as the comic relief, which has a spiritual element to it. But there is nothing like being with 3,000 women in Atlanta and feeling their laughter come back like waves roaring from this huge room. And I know that we're connecting. And they don't know me from Adam. I mean, they don't know what KSL is, and they're not familiar with me from the radio.
Sure.
We're just women sharing each other's pain, and there is a lot of humor in pain, as you know, probably, for being a parent. All parents experience that. So I guess that most recently, I have had real joy from the public speaking in that capacity.
Yeah. Talk about kind of taking a time out and being able to recharge, reinvigorate. That's really what the Women in Business Conference is about, celebrating the women who enrich the business community here in Utah, but also just to kind of gather some strength and learn from everyone else. And I think that's what a lot of people walk away from this conference with, that feeling. So I presume that as you tie those two together, that's kind of nice to tie what you're doing with an event like that.
Oh yes, women should come. They should absolutely come because of the strength that we get from being together and hearing the stories of those women like Chris who have gone before us and with us and beside us and are still teaching us. We teach each other. It's hard to get that when you're in the office every day just trying to meet your numbers. I mean, the pressure of that is so extraordinary that when, if not at a business conference like this, when would you have a moment? When would you give yourself a moment to just see the success of others and also learn something that might help you in the way you handle your job, in the way you handle your family and your job? It's also challenging. We need to give ourselves these moments. We can't do it very often. This is one we should do.
And it's coming up November 16th. We will honor, as I mentioned, 5 Pathfinders, you among them, as well as Dr. Cynthia Bioto of the Salt Lake Community College.
Who's an extraordinary woman,
We'll
by the
take
way.
our Athena Award that night. So very excited about that. If, registration is available at slchamber.com. Amanda Dickson from KSL News Radio, thanks so much for taking some time this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you.